There are several options that could be the next to commit to Auburn.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up this Wednesday with Montgomery radio legend, the Darrell Dapprich, hanging out with us. Locked On Auburn, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. There's an insane double standard, Darrell, that I want to just kind of point out and get your reaction to. Also, what did this weekend mean for the Auburn Tigers? Obviously, historic stuff, but who's next to jump on board, Darrell? I think that's the big question of, okay, yes, this is fun. It's fun getting all those guys, but the next question is always, well, who's next? Who's next? Tyler Lockhart seems to be the one who's kind of looming in the shadows, ready to commit again. And I think some of that is just because he kind of just committed without anybody knowing the first time. And it kind of feels like that may happen again.
Yeah, I go back to when we were talking about the visitors for Big Cat Weekend that we were the most excited about, and I think you were shocked that I put Tyler Lockhart in there. I'm going to be perfectly honest. The reason why I did is because I thought he was, recommitting back to Auburn. I felt very strongly that was going to happen, and I feel even more strong now. When we did the show last week, remember me saying 9 and we said that's kind of conservative, and we kind of felt like it could be more. We're at 7 right now.
Yeah, way too low.
And 3 should come this week. And again, there was some confusion out there. I want to make sure everybody, again, for the second time, hears me out. I wasn't predicting 9 we're going to pop Saturday and Sunday. This is groundwork being laid for the next couple weeks, right?
Oh, if people didn't want to hear you the first time, they're not going to care to hear you the second time.
That's true. Well, some have actually come around, which is actually nice. But yeah,
whatever.
I think that I was conservative. And I think that there's going to be 3 that'll hit this week.
Yeah. And then that doesn't count a big chunk of the 2026 class that was obviously there this past weekend. I mean, I guess your candidates of who could be next, Tyler Lockhart, I would say, is the favorite. If FanDuel asked us to set the lines, I would think, he would have the best odds. But then you've got Jared Smith, who's committing on Saturday on the 3rd. Who obviously it seems like is an Auburn lean. He's visited other places, and other places really, really want him. But it seems like he's going to end up in Auburn's class. And then I guess the other one would be Sam Turner, who's a guy that I talked about a little bit more and more leading up to Big Cat, because I didn't know who he was 2 weeks ago. And I saw him on the list. I started watching his tape, and it's like Sam Turner can play. A 6'3", 190-pound wide receiver, currently committed to Georgia Tech, and you turn on his tape and it's like, don't care that he's a 3-star. This guy is better than Georgia Tech. And I got a feeling he knows it. And I'm sure the Auburn coaching staff made that very clear to him this past weekend. But it sounds like Sam Turner is a legitimate flip candidate for the Auburn Tigers.
What's amazing is that there are so many really, really good 3-star receivers that the eyeball test and the skill set tells you this is not a 3-star. And I think the reason why that is because the gluttony of great athletes that are at receiver. So if you have just, hundreds and hundreds of great receivers across the Southeast, it's really hard.
Yeah.
The way they do this recruiting and this ranking system, this kid's not a 3-star. He's just not. And I don't.
And he's doing it against Atlanta-based.
Exactly. And I really don't care if he's rated a 3-star. If the coaches in the offer list, again, look at that. If the coaches say he's got a skill set that we really, really like, that we think he can help us and contribute, I trust him.
Yeah, Rivals has him as a 4-star, the 35th ranked player in the state of Georgia. Everywhere else has him at around either in the 50s, and then ESPN has him as the 86th player in Georgia. I'm just not buying that. I know Georgia's loaded. I get it. There's not 80-something players in Georgia better than Sam Turner. That's just where I'm at with it, and it's going to be really hard for you to convince me otherwise. But this is a guy that I think is the classic, okay, let's scout. Let's see who else our options are, because it sounds like, I get the feeling anyway, they had to pivot when the Cunningham news happened and he didn't show up for Big Cat Weekend, and Sam Turner is kind of the next in line. Obviously, you get Derek Smith. You flip him from Alabama. Can't stress that enough. flip them from Alabama. And then, okay, you probably need one more because Auburn's losing a ton of receivers this year.
Yeah.
I got a feeling they're going to add one in the portal in December just because of numbers and age. I think they're going to have to. But you probably want 2 or 3 pass catchers. And I think if you could go into early signing day with the expectation of Derek Smith and Sam Turner, you're probably happy with your receiver class.
I agree. I'm kind of like have the approach to this as I do running back, where me and you don't really see, we don't agree 100%. I think Auburn could take 3 running backs and a portal running back, and then that would be a lot. But I think Auburn could take 3 receivers and a portal receiver in this upcoming class. They're going to have a lot of numbers. I was looking at some of the stuff between graduation and scholarships available and kids leaving and that kind of thing. Auburn's going to have a lot of numbers for 2025. So it would fit.
It's going to be a lot for sure.
I mean, I think you take one more besides Turner and Smith. If you can get somebody that you've scouted that you're really high on.
And it might depend. Like Cunningham, there's going to be a spot for him if he were to come back or whatever. I don't know if I'm holding my breath for that, but a player that is that caliber. And hey, if Auburn gets their quarterback, maybe it opens up different conversations for wide receivers. I mean, we'll just see. But I mean, after this season, Robert Lewis and Keandre Lambert-Smith, those are the only guys that run out of eligibility. Then you've got Camden Brown and Sam Jackson the 5th. I don't think they're going anywhere. Like if Camden would have left already, he would have done it. So
right.
I think he's staying. And unless he has just a stellar season, I can't see him leaving early. So he's probably on the roster next year. Sam Jackson, I kind of get the same vibe. Caleb Burton, redshirt sophomore going into the season. And then you got your 4 freshmen, the Freeze 4 with Coleman, Thompson, Kane, and Simmons. So they're not losing as much as I originally thought. So
maybe.
I mean,
maybe.
Sure. Yeah,
I guess what you do is there's 2 that you plan on are definites, and then you anticipate an alternative scenario where there could be, you got to plan for the unexpected. You see what I'm saying? So
Sure.
That's how you recruit. You over recruit in case a contingency plan type scenario. I'm not saying anybody's going anywhere, but I also know that if you've got 4 studs and Derek Smith coming in and playing time is going to be very limited, you might want to plan for a couple other guys jumping ship is all I'm saying.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. We'll see what that looks like. But yeah, as far as next to commit, would you go with, I think I'm going to go most likely Tyler Lockhart, second most likely Smith, third most likely Sam Turner. Where are you?
Exactly the same thing.
Exact order.
Exactly. And I also feel like it'll be in that order. So
you think?
Yeah.
Could be.
Could
be. Regardless, 3 great additions would be 3 great additions.
What a weekend too. I mean, I'm just still coming off I haven't had the opportunity, we're talking about a couple days later, but yeah, that's where the residual effect of this keeps you going. You get 2, 3, 4, 5 more the week after.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about that. So what did this weekend mean? It's more than just the weekend. I think some people are missing that. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets for anything, Darrell, for anything, whether it's a concert, whether it's you want to see comedy, whether it's the theater, it doesn't matter what it is. Game Time has you covered. I'm going to a concert in a week and a half. Bought the tickets from Game Time. It was like a 5-second process. Incredibly easy.
I bought Braves Mets tickets a month and a half ago, which seemed like a throwaway game at the time, and now it could be huge in the 3rd week of September. So I got a great deal on them. Yeah. I mean, back then, right? And so again, picked my seats, got a lightning deal, boom, and that game's going to be a lot more desirable than it looked like a month and a half ago.
Yeah, and Game Time's an authorized ticket marketplace of the MLB, so getting tickets for any MLB game is going to be even easier with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. And then today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Factor. You can head over to factor.com/LockedOnCollege50. Darrell, you heard the read.
I did.
And you're like, This deal seems too good to be true. So you haven't gotten it yet, but you've ordered it. How easy was the process?
Very easy. I was watching, like I always do, your show. I mean, the Locked On Auburn show, saw this, and I thought, I want some pre-prepared meals for my lunch here at work.
Sure.
And I'm doing keto and I'm doing low calorie. And it's so simple. You pick your dietary option, whatever you're going, and then you just click on it, and they send you 6 meals. I use the code, got a great deal on that. They'll come prepackaged. I can't wait to try them. And I've kept receipts. I've kept pictures of the food I ordered, even showed it to you in case anybody questions.
It looks great.
It looks real. I'm excited to tear into that. I really am.
Yeah. So you get to pick between Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and I think there might be more as well. So be sure to check it all out. Head over to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 for 50% off. All right, Darrell. I mean, this past weekend obviously was huge, but there's no telling, and this is the folks that you mentioned at the top of the show that maybe missed the point of your original statement. There's no telling the ramifications for this past weekend, what it can mean moving forward. Not only with this next week that's happened, and then even the folks that committed on Monday with Derek Smith flipping from Bama, and then Fagan's picking Auburn over LSU and some other schools. But it's so much larger than that because the ripple effect of all of this. In fact, we've heard folks that went to Auburn and then went to Bama, and they're like, this was way better at Auburn. And those are, we've heard several reports of that. So to me, this is the thing that could also cause a ripple effect. Obviously, 2026 is going to be impacted. They had so many people commit for the 2026 class, but the folks that are in the 2026 class, they're friends with the folks in the 2027 class. And I just think there's going to kind of be some real momentum that starts from everything that happened this past weekend. It's more than just folks committing over the weekend. It's larger than that.
It's why, we throw terms around like residual effect. So what you do is you lay the groundwork.
Yes.
You get 7 initially, right? Or 5 initially on day 2, and then you get 2 Friday. You could get 3 more this week. Let's talk about that. 10 in 1 calendar week is very, very doable. Okay. And then as you start to go into fall practice, a couple other things might happen. You might get your quarterback. There might be some other things that happen. And then it starts to build. And like you mentioned, the 2027 class. So anytime you have an event like this, you don't know how far out, as you said, the ripple effect goes. Does it go into September? Does it go into October? I don't know. I know that probably the first month is the best month to capture some of these because of that recruiting high and the visit high that people talk about. And right now, Auburn is riding that wave.
It's a real thing. I mean, just the overall national attention that it got. Yeah. And there was hype going into the weekend, and I talked about this on Monday's show. But the general hype going into the weekend and then Auburn actually living up to the hype. I mean, how many times have things been hyped up at Auburn? Then it's like, that's it? Or like somebody didn't execute or somebody swept in, some other school swept in the last second and, ruined it for us or whatever that may be. Now it seems like Auburn's doing that to other schools. It's like, oh, you want this kid and it's down to us and you? Good luck. Good luck going, crossing the finish line against Hugh Freeze when he really wants a kid. And I've never really felt that level of confidence like I feel right now when it comes to acquiring talent for Auburn football's roster. It feels different than it ever has because of this past weekend.
I really haven't been following Auburn recruiting as a fan or somebody that pays attention to it. Around 92, 93 is when it started. So I can't remember a time.
That's when I started too.
This
when my life started.
There you go. And you right out of the womb knew. I used to have to read those recruiting magazines to get all the information. It's unprecedented. I saw a glimpse with the Trooper Taylor, Gene Chizik when they got a top 5 class and they were
that
rolling.
Was fun. Trevon Reed's class.
But other than that,
Michael Dyer.
But this feels different. You know why this feels different? It doesn't feel like a one-off. It feels sustainable. It feels like you can stack classes, and that's the difference. That is the key to being a program that gets you back to elite status or the one that's in a flash in a pan that competes once every 5 years. This staff feels like they can stack classes, 25, 26, 27, those years. And that's where I think it's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's made Auburn football feel cool to these kids that are going up. And it's like in the early, or I guess the mid 2010s, the kids like had Cam. And it's like these kids weren't old enough to watch Cam Newton even in the NFL. It's just they were too young. They definitely didn't see him at Auburn. But now it's starting to feel cool again. It's like as Auburn football is getting its swagger back, and it's Hugh Freeze and the staff, they're doing it one recruit at a time. And clearly the way Hugh Freeze talks to these kids, it's like they love them. They just can't get enough of them. And I mean, even that is it a 2026 quarterback or a 2027 quarterback? That 5-star rider, I think.
Yeah, from California. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like anytime somebody has a quote about like interacting with Hugh Freeze, it's just he's blowing them away every single time.
I thought that a lot of times, until I had the opportunity to see that up close, was just dialogue.
Ryder Lyons is his name.
Yeah, and I've had the opportunity to spend a little bit, as you have, more of an intimate setting with Hugh Freeze. And this year especially, there is that air of confidence, not arrogance, there's swag. There is definitely something that draws in. I've watched him interact with other people a lot closer than I have other Auburn coaches. And there's an it factor there. Yep. And I love the staff that he is putting around him that has, I mean, I have heard nothing but the Charles Kelly factor. I keep saying that, but I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. It's just there on how he relates to kids, and even DJ Durkin, where these kids really want to play for him. And it's this interpersonal relationship type thing. People preach that all the time. I get Darrell,
it. You can go down the list, man. Aldridge, I mean, you and I talked about him several times.
Derek Nix is so relatable.
Sure, Derek Nix. Vontrell King-Williams, yes. The big question was like, is he ready for this job?
Yeah.
Clearly he is. Clearly he's attracting talent, and folks want to come play for him and are excited. I mean, Jake Thornton with the offensive line rebuild that ever since this staff has stepped foot on Auburn's campus, he's really built that. It's been amazing to see this staff go to work. I mean, it almost feels like an injustice just to mention 2 or 3 of them because they're all so dang good at it.
That's a great point. There's not a weak link. I know for a fact, I'm not mentioning names, I know for a fact on Harson's staff, even on Tuberville's staff, Malzahn, Chiswick, there was always 1 or 2 guys that they'd say, doesn't like to recruit.
Yeah.
Recruiting's not as strong. And
you can't work here anymore.
You can't work for Hugh Freeze if you don't recruit. Yep. Bye. I mean, that's just not an option. And again, we'll talk about, I know that we want to talk about proof of concept and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's got to translate on the field. But when you and Charlie 5 mentioned yesterday, let's really understand what we're talking about here and the ramifications of the next couple of years, possibly having a top 5 roster. Huh. I trust this staff to develop that top 5 roster.
Yeah, we're 24 months away.
And not Texas A&M it and Aggie it like Jimbo Fisher and them did, because they had some really, really good classes that had a top 5 roster, and it never turned into what it should have.
Yeah.
That's where Auburn has to make sure they do diligence and get that developed.
No question.
Concept.
It's a great situation to be in. But like, even though, and I've seen so many Auburn folks, and there is a little truth to this, but I don't think it's as absolute as several folks said. I had personal friends say this to me in person this weekend. We were talking about it, as well as just messages and comments and all that. Auburn has to win now this year to hold on to these guys. And I just don't think that's true. Like, you can't go 6-6.
No.
Like, you can't just like totally fall apart as a program.
But we have to define win. Win what? Win 9, win 8? Yes. And they're fine.
I don't think so. I think Auburn still has a top 5 class if they don't win 8 games.
Okay.
Because you're selling future. You're not selling, hey, we're good this year. That's not what you're selling. What you're selling doesn't change, I don't think.
Except that the kids that you got in the 23 class were promised to the fan base were going to help expedite winning and improve this team and improve this roster. So you want to see, I get it. If you win 7, technically it's improvement. You win 8, you really can put your finger on it and say, okay, there's some marked progress. And that was promised with this recruiting class in 23 when it was like, wait till I get my receivers in here, my players in here, some skill guys. I think that proof of concept means you win a couple more games under that scenario. And then I'm not saying Auburn loses players if they go 7-5, especially with, we don't know how 7-5 would look.
Good point.
But I think for me, 8 wins is the improvement I would be looking for with the promise of the recruiting class that was brought in with Riddick and Perry and Cam and all.
Yeah, but we're saying different things though. Like what they should do, I'm with you. They should go 8-4. I'm with you on that. But people are saying you've got to win to hold on to this class and all these recruits. And I just don't think that's true. I think you'd have to absolutely totally fall apart this season in order for that to be the case.
Yeah, I could go with that. They're
selling a vision. They're selling a future. Is like, and the future is an improvement because you're in it. That's the pitch. And so, well, I mean, we'll see. And we can probably do a full show on that at some point.
Yeah.
But it's still exciting. I don't think Auburn's going to fall apart this year.
No.
So there's a double standard, Darrell, and you and I have not talked about this last segment, and I just want your raw reaction because I gotta feel.
Could this be a DAP rant coming that I don't even know about?
We could have an unsolicited DAP rant coming up, and I want your thoughts in the comments down below as well. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Darrell, can you imagine buying a part for your car, truck, SUV, whether it's your personal driver or your daily driver or something for your work, anywhere other than our friends at eBay Motors?
No, too simple. Too easy of a process, my friend.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's so easy. They've got over 122 million parts for anything that you may need. You've said it before, but there's an older truck at your company, and like you can't go to a store and get a part for a truck that's like, it's like 20 or 30 years old.
I got laughed at. I'm not lying. The person at the auto parts store snickered at us when we went in there and asked for it.
Well, let me ask you, did eBay Motors snicker at you?
No, they found
they gave you the
it.
part. Yeah, they let you buy the part.
They didn't snicker, they shipped.
They what?
Shipped the part.
That's what you said.
They didn't snicker, they shipped.
That's wow. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Darrell, I just think there's such a fitting double standard that just happened over the last few days. So Auburn is getting so much action in the 2026 class. Hezekiah, Tootle, J-Mike, so much excitement that they ascend. They ascend to the number one class across the board in the 2026 class. There's so much excitement. What do other programs do? They say, oh, well, it's 2026. That's so far from now. We're worried about this class. We're worried about the now. That's too far from now, not legitimate. Okay, whatever. We're going to be excited about it. You don't have to. That's fine. Alabama, they pick up a 2027 commit.
The linebacker.
Yeah, his name is Barack Willis. He plays at Moody. He's an edge guy, according to 247. He may be a linebacker. I don't know. But solid, seems like a solid player. And props to Barack for being in a situation where he can commit to Alabama as a rising sophomore. Is that what he would be?
Yes.
Rising junior. Still, that's insane. That shows how good he is. Props to him for being in that situation. This is not about Barack Willis. And the fan base erupts. Oh, I thought our recruiting was dead. Oh, no, Alabama hasn't dropped off at all. Yeah, we're building for the future. Oh, I thought Alabama couldn't get in-state players. And it's like, what are y'all doing? Like, the lack of self-awareness from the fan base in Tuscaloosa it's the most jaw-dropping thing every time something happens.
It is absolutely a reaction to, in my opinion, bitterness, fear, anger, jealousy, entitlement of things that happened over the last 4 days. I'm not putting every Alabama fan in that pigeonhole, but I'm saying the ones I see online that acted the way you just said, it's because there is a sense of entitlement that Auburn shouldn't be doing that. By God, we do that. That's us. And then when Auburn does it, it gets downplayed. It gets minimalized. And anytime you watch somebody react the way that they reacted, this particular portion of the fan base reacted to the recruit that just committed today, it is such an emotional counterpoint to say, see, because there's insecurity there.
Yeah, Auburn fans are. If you want to know how your rivals feel, look at their behavior the last 4 to 5 days.
Yes,
there's a concern. There's a concern here, and sure, they want to point to the number 2 class because they can recruit nationally. Which is great for now. But long term, you're going to have to build relationships with high school kids in the state, and obviously Alabama high school coaches. And sure, you can look. Yeah, you got an in-state commit in 2027. That's great, and I'm sure the player's solid. I don't know. I haven't watched him, but I'm sure he's solid. If he's able to have a committable offer that far out, I'm sure he's really good. But to me, it's just Bama fans are acting different than they ever have, and I think they know that it feels different because Auburn fans are excited. Auburn fans haven't been this excited about something in a long time, Darrell, when it comes to football. In a long time. And they notice it, and I just think they're concerned.
So my question would be, if I was in that particular realm of fan base that you're talking about, that it's a double standard that we've seen, why would I care what Auburn is doing if I had the number 2 class of the nation? Why would it bother me? It wouldn't bother me. Like right now, Alabama's got the number 2 class of the nation. Kudos. They're getting it done on a national level. They are recruiting at a high level. I'm not going to denounce that or say that's not true. But, oh, by the way, that's not good enough. It's not just that I'm recruiting good. You've got to suck, Auburn, for my life to be great. It's not just about Alabama being at a high level. It's about Auburn being below, low on the totem pole for it to be as glorious as it needs to be. That's the problem. That's the attitude that really, really bothers me is Alabama could end up with the number 1 class in the country. And if Auburn's number 4 or number 3, they freaking get upset because, no, you need to know your place, Auburn. You got to fall out of the top 10. That's the problem. That's the issue. That's why I could give a crap if Alabama's number 2 or number 1. Right now, Auburn's ascending, and that's what I'm focused on. And a lot of Auburn fans are focused on. It's not enough to be on top. It's complete when they're on top and Auburn's on bottom.
Yeah,
and if anybody thinks that's not true, the double standard.
It's true. The double standard is insane. I got a kick out of that.
Yeah.
When that news broke. So whatever. We'll see what happens. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Wednesdays and Fridays here with you on Locked on Auburn, a little written work on Auburn Daily. And, throughout the week, sometimes things pop. And if they did, like those recruiting videos we were so much fun doing, maybe it happens again down the road.
We posted a lot. We posted a lot of them, Darrell.
We did.
Posted a bunch.
They just kept coming.
Yeah, I got a feeling we got more in the can moving forward. So we'll hopefully post those soon. Please check out my written work at auburndaily.com as well. Like the video, subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.